Fatherhood series, where dads are gathered to talk about major topics in modern fatherhood. Today's chat will be a chat with the NBA father and son duo, Austin and Doc Rivers. And we also have a few other people who can talk very authoritatively about being a dad, a couple of dad bloggers. We have Fred Goodall from Mocha Dad and Jim Higley from Bobblehead Dad. And we also have Mark Stein, who just started a new show. So it's going to be an exciting chat. But first I wanted to get everybody to introduce themselves. So why don't we start with you, Doc? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Doc Rivers. I'm the coach of the Boston Celtics. I've been there, I think, 10 years. I don't even know anymore. I'm getting too old. And my son is going to come on and talk. He's is an NBA player. That's what I guess makes us unique. And I was also a player. Played for 13 years in NBA.
Fantastic. Austin, how about you?
My name is Austin Rivers. First year playing for the New Orleans Hornets and now the New Orleans Pelicans. Last year or the year before, I played at Duke University. 20 years old, and yeah, went 2-0 versus my dad this year.
Jim, how about you?
Hi, I'm Jim Higley. I work predominantly in the fatherhood advocacy space. I work with a lot of brands and organizations with fatherhood initiatives. I write for a bunch of national publications. I host a weekly radio show on fatherhood, and I'm a single dad raising 3 kids alone.
Thanks. Fred.
Hi, my name is Fred Goodall. I run the website Mocha Dad. It's a website for fathers to get some information about how to be a father, how to interact with your children. And it's just a spot that I want fathers to convene and share their information and help one another.
Thanks. And last but certainly not least, Mark.
Yeah, hi, I'm Mark Steinis. I am a co-host of a show on Hallmark called Home and Family, and we are all about home and family on this show, as I am. I have 2 young boys, and I am busy raising them, 9 and 11, Kai and Avery, and we bring them on the show whenever we can. But I think it's, you know, it's one of the most important jobs that I think we have as men, is to raise our children and teach them how to be responsible, you know, young men as they grow up and get older. And I see, Doc, you've done that, and you taught him well because your son's beaten you twice already. So.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, that's sort of a nice segue for one of the questions I wanted to ask. I mean, what's it like to have, I mean, I'll ask you first, Doc, but what's it like having a son, you know, follow in your footsteps? And, you know, I mean, you know, he beat you on the court once, and, you know, what's that like? Is it, you know, how do you approach that as a dad?
Well, as a dad, you're proud. You know, I didn't care if he followed my footsteps. You know, I just wanted him to follow his own path. And I think that's far more important, that you do that. And that's what Austin did. He followed his own path. He wanted to be a basketball player. You know, it wasn't like I was saying you needed to be one. It was strange, honestly, playing against him. I thought it was going to be a neat thing. And you know, it was just strange from a coaching standpoint. Austin comes in a game and he scores a bucket, and as a father, I should cheer for that. And I'm thinking, I don't like that. He just scored on my team. So it was an interesting dynamic that I actually didn't enjoy. I thought Austin enjoyed it quite a lot.
Did you enjoy it, Austin?
No, I did. I did.
I actually did have another quick question for you, Doc, and also for Austin. But how would you say that coaching has affected you, you know, as your parenting style? I mean, has it made you better fathers, or anything from coaching that has helped you?
You know, that's a great question. I think it's probably done both. I think at times it has helped me because you deal with men every day when you're a coach, or if you're coaching college kids, you deal with kids. And so you learn far more personalities than you would in a normal day. But then there's times, I think, where it hurts you, where you come home and you're still coaching, not as far as basketball, but, you know, you got to be careful. When you come home, you're a dad, you're not a coach, and you got to keep that separation.
Austin, having a dad who's a coach, was it, you know, did you tread carefully? Was it, were you able to, you know, do what he said better?
Yeah, I mean,
guidance.
It's always been a good balance between me and him. That's one thing we've always done pretty well is having our boundaries as far as not him overcoaching or me overstepping my boundaries. It's always been, like my dad said earlier, he kind of let me choose my own path. And when I chose basketball, I mean, I think it made our relationship a lot easier. We were able to bond a lot more, and now we can talk basketball on and off the court. But he never was ever, trying to force things on me. And I think that just helped our relationship to the point where now we're so comfortable we could talk to each other in any type of way.
So, I mean, it's an interesting, that's basically, have a very strong father role model in that situation. What about some of the other guys? Fred, I mean, anybody, Jim or Mark, anybody, any strong male role models in your life, either your dad or something that you could talk about?
Yeah, this is Fred. I often write about on my blog. My dad, my mom divorced when I was 5 years old. So my dad wasn't an influential part of my life. However, my mother was wise enough to take me around my uncles, take me around other men in the community, guys in our church, to really have an influence on me so I could see different perspectives on what it means to be a man, what it means to be a dad, and kind of shape some of my information and some of my opinions on what fatherhood really looks like. Now, of course, every man I interacted with wasn't a great dad, he wasn't a great person, but it gave me something to kind of place some benchmarks in my life. Maybe I can take something from this guy, but not these other traits, or maybe I can learn something from him and implement that into my life as a dad. So I think seeing different perspectives, seeing different types of men really helped me to grow and develop as a father.
I was actually raised by a single dad. My mother died when I was a kid, so I'm youngest of 5 boys from a little town in Nebraska, and so I had a dad who really had to play both roles, and candidly, not only did he bring his A game to fathering, he really brought his A game to the whole parenting spectrum. So for me as a role model, hands down, it was my own father. And kind of back to what Doc was even just saying, what my dad taught me was that a father-child relationship is like no other relationship, and like Doc was talking about, you can bring a lot of the aspects of coaching, or for those of us who have other professions, into your parent-child relationship. There is nothing like that relationship you have with your kid, as I'm sure Mark can attest as well.
Mark,
I think the bond between a father and son is very strong. For me, my parents grew up in rural Iowa. My dad went to school through the 6th grade. My mom through the 8th grade, and that was common for them back then. My dad is now in his mid 80s, and I struggled as I got older because I felt I missed out on a lot with my dad, and I realized, if you stop growing at 6, in the 6th grade, my son is now entering that, and I'm thinking these are the communication skills he had to raise 2 boys. But what I took away from it is, my dad lacked in maybe some of those skill sets that I think you really need to have to put your child, especially in the world that we have today, is he taught me hard work and what dedication and discipline was, and loyalty. And those are that's the backbone. The other stuff that I picked up along the way were bits and pieces from other people in my life, and a lot of them were coaches, because I played football, played in college, and learning from coaches and the discipline and what it meant to have teamwork and be a part of a team is one of the things that helped define me, I think, in my role as a father today, knowing what it's like to be part of a family and how we all lean on each other and we all have to be there for one another. And that's what's important. And that's what I hope to pass along to my kids, along with the many other things. But, we try to break that cycle. We always want to be better. And as I, kind of joked with Doc, I mean, he's done a great job because he's, his son doing well. And it's mixed. I bet, Doc, for you, it's got to be tough because, you begin to let go. And I'm at a point, your son is 20 now or whatnot, and they leave the nest, and mine are still in the nest, but I still want to, they're already showing me signs of wanting to push away from me. And as my oldest gets closer to his teens, I feel that he wants to step away. I still want to pull him back, but then when I let go, he does return. It's a weird dichotomy that I feel.
Yeah, I would agree with Mark. It's just, you got to let them go, but you can't let them go, if you know what I'm saying. You're always going to be a part of them, and it's about space. And I think in coaching, I think in everyday life, I think in fatherhood, is that we all know is knowing the right space is always a balance. I don't think that ever stops. I think that'll continue for the rest of our lives. And, you know, I don't think we're ever going to be experts at this fatherhood thing. I think we're just going to always try to do our best at it. And understand that a lot of times we're going to make the right decisions. Some we're going to make the wrong ones. But because you have a great bond, the relationship is strong in all of that.
And just to add to what you're saying, Doc, and to build on Mark, what you're going through with younger boys, I think, Doc, you have older kids as well. My oldest, yeah. Kevin is 23, and one of the things I've learned, and kind of targeted to you, Mark, is yeah, they go through that stage in their teens and tweens where they want to push you away. But speaking from experience with my son Kevin, he's welcoming. You know, he brings me back into his life now that he's a working adult, and that, I'll tell you, is a great blessing as a dad.
You know, I thought one of the interesting points that you guys brought up was this idea of you know, giving space, and well, Doc brought it up about space, and you're all pretty high achievers, and you all work very hard. The dads, first of all, I mean, how do you balance that kind of hard work with giving just the right amount of time as a father? I mean, how do you insert yourself when you have so much work? How do you stay in touch? How do you stay very connected to your kids rather than absent, let's say?
Well, this is Fred. You know, as fathers, sometimes we try and make some distinctions between what's quality time and what's quantity of time. For a child, the time you spend with them, however much it is very important. So we have to carve out those moments. Sometimes we get busy and we have to let our kids know, right now I'm busy, but take that time to talk to them, have a conversation with them. A simple thing that you can do as a dad is have dinner with your family. I mean, that takes just a few minutes a night, but it's a great way to reconnect with your family, to talk about your day and let everybody know what's going on in our lives. We miss many opportunities because we do get so caught up in life, so caught up with work. But time is the only commodity that we have that's not, we can't replenish that commodity. So we have to take advantage of it while we can. So I always advise fathers, spend those precious moments while you have the time, because you can't get those back.
Austin, do you have any special memories maybe of stuff you might have done you know, with your dad, like those sort of special moments that you will never forget that really made a difference?
Yeah, I mean, I have a million of them, and that's, you know, a big part of it is also both of us having a common interest. You know, growing up, I wanted to be just like him, and I still do at this age, even though I'm in the NBA playing. You know, when I grow old, I would like to be a coach just like him and be, you know, half as good as he is as a coach and as a man. And you know, I've grown up, you know, looking at him and trying to emulate the things that he's done in his life. And because of that, you know, we've been together a lot, and we've had so many memories, going back to the times where he's won championships, or the times where we've just gone on family vacations and gotten away from the sport of basketball. So, you know, that's one thing I think is big, you know, just from my experience, is always try to find a common interest with your kid, because it can just help build a relationship, because you could trans from there to other things. And it's helped our relationship, because now me and him are very close.
Well, what did you guys do that was like not basketball, but was like totally awesome, that you just like was just, you know, a signature activity?
Well, every time we go on vacation, we like to go to the beach, and that's usually one thing. We go swimming, or we'll play our family is crazy about sports. You know, it is what it is. So if we're not playing basketball, we were playing tennis the other day. We were playing tennis, and my dad was trying to play tennis versus us, and he tore his hamstring. He fell face first into the ground. It was so funny. But it's things like that though that we do, and
it's things like that my kids enjoy. Me falling face first. I'm still
so you know,
living that down.
That was a play for sympathy, just so you know. I've done that before. I pulled out the hammy sore, can't go out and do it with you. Just so you know, play for sympathy.
But I think Austin kind of speaks to one of the secrets of fatherhood is that kids give you permission to try different things, you know, and as we all know, our kids pop out into this world with their own personality and their own interests, as did certainly all three of mine. And I just decided to follow their lead. And, you know, and while I agree with you also, you know, find things that you have common interests in, it's also kind of fun as a dad to get a second chance at some things that you maybe didn't try as a kid. And my three kids all have given me that kind of opportunity. So like you, Doc, playing tennis and, you know, falling flat on your face, again, to me, those are the great memories that we can give our kids.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Jim. We used to have a Thanksgiving Day football game with a bunch of other families, but I pulled my hamstring in that game as well. So
seems to be a theme.
Yeah, I think the theme here is stop being so competitive.
I will say this, though, as my kids get older and they get more competitive, I realize that my body's not responding the way it used to.
There you go, Mark.
I'm telling you, I've had that. And I have injuries from football that, you know, these are earned on the battlefield. But, yeah, they're challenging me more and more, and the older they get. I got to talk a better game than when I play.
I'm with you.
Hey, Doc, I do have a question for you. When your boys were growing up and you were playing basketball with them, did you ever let them win?
Oh, no, that didn't happen a lot. You know, maybe when they were really young, like when they were 5, I let them win. But Austin, I think, beat me, I think his freshman year, maybe his sophomore year in high school. See, the one thing about a father, we are all smart enough to know when not to play them anymore.
Right,
and
exactly.
So that's been the change with each son. You know, my oldest son beat me, so I moved down to Austin. When Austin beat me, I moved down to my young son, Spencer. That's who I'm working on now.
It's a smart coach right there.
Doc, was there ever a point where you just realized, wow, this kid is good enough to play in the NBA? And what was that like?
You know, as a dad, you just, and then as a parent, it's not even just being a dad. I think we all hope the best and we think the best. You know, honestly, I thought it, but you know, as a parent, you're like scared to say it or think it. And I remember when Austin was a freshman in high school, and we were done practicing in Boston, and he was on the floor, and Danny Ainge actually walked over to me and just pointed at Austin and said, He's going to be a pro. I'm telling you this. And, you know, you kind of, as a dad, you hear it. But until David Stern called his name out last year in the draft, that's when I believed it for sure. I mean, you just always want your kids to do well, so you're always scared that they're not, I think.
Yeah, but you know what? If I can follow up on that, I struggle with, as a dad, my guys are still young, and I'm getting better at this, but my will and wanting them to playing sports and playing football, especially my older son, because he's a bigger guy, I want that for him, but I'm sitting back waiting for him to either want it or not to choose it, and he has so many interests. I'd love to throw this out to you guys, is at what point do you begin to start forming them and giving them a focus as to where they want to go and what they want to hone in on, or do you just sit back and let them just keep trying stuff?
Well, this is Doc. That's a great question, and I don't know. I can tell you this. I remember Austin quitting soccer, and I was the happiest man on earth because we were in Florida. It's like 1,000 degrees outside, and I'm thinking in my own mind, he's so much better at basketball. I wish he just focused on that. And he finally came to that conclusion on his own. But that is, you know, in this day and time, it seems like kids specialize in one. And I do like kids playing more sport-wise, and it doesn't have to be sports. It could be anything. I like them doing more than the one thing, and I think that's really important. And Mark, I don't know the age at when you start getting them. I think they, you know, at least in our case, they kind of found their own way. I think Austin would agree our daughter took the longest because she did so many things: soccer, volleyball, track, basketball. We didn't know, and finally she decided, but that was all the way until she was a junior in high school, I think.
Yeah. But I think it's hard as a dad because you want your kids to try many different things, but you don't want them to give up too quickly.
Yeah.
Because maybe they're not performing well, or maybe they're not doing as well as they wanted to. So you have to kind of work it out. You know, do I let them try anything else, or do I have them push on through some of the difficult times they may be experiencing. And that's a hard give and take. So you just have to decide how your children will respond to different situations and figure out where they are personally.
But that's where character is formed, right? I mean, it's in that difficult situation.
Right, exactly.
I just struggle with that. Like, I don't want to scar my kids.
Right,
and being
exactly.
dad was really hard on me. But on the other hand, I don't want to raise a quitter. I don't want my kid to quit. You know, I don't want them to go like, it's too easy to walk away.
Yeah, I agree, Mark. And you know, it's funny when Austin said it, like in soccer. You know, he said, "Dad, I think this is it for me." He finished the year. You know, he finished the season and then moved on. But failure is not all bad either. And you know, there's so many great learning tools in sports or in anything. You know, learning how to overcome failure is a very positive thing if that's the way you look at it.
Yeah.
Failure is an incredibly important thing for us to give our kids. And you just said something, Doc, I really agree with about Austin, you know, finishing the season, and he wasn't a quitter. He tried something, he got from A to Z, and he decided it wasn't for him. And I think that someone told me once, as a dad, our job is to kind of be the chauffeur of our kids through their life and just to take them from spot to spot to spot. And hopefully we know our kids well enough that when that passion and when that fire lights, then we can reinforce it and support it however we best do it. But it all boils down to that connection you have with your kid.
What kind of things do you say, you know, if there's like a failure moment, you know, to your kids? What kind of approaches have you taken to sort of give the right lesson, I guess?
Well, my son was playing baseball this past season, and the first 3 games he struck out every single time. And as a dad, that was painful to watch. I didn't even want to look at him step to the plate because just seeing his failures just was hurting me so much, you know. So I didn't make a big deal out of it. I talked to him about it. I asked him, how did you feel when you were at the plate? Well, he told me, you know, I felt like I was going to hit the ball, but they just didn't work out. And now I'll do better next time. And I was surprised that he maintained that positive attitude throughout this whole experience. You know, I coached him previously in baseball, and I made a lot of mistakes as a dad and as a coach by being too hard on him and coming down too heavily on him. So I've learned I have to give him his space. I have to let him work this out. I have to let him deal with this in his own way. And if he wants to talk about it further, he knows I'm here for him and to talk to him about it. And I think he's managed to deal with these situations. And he comes to me for specific advice. He'll say, hey, you know, I didn't do well, so let's go in the backyard and throw some balls around and throw some pitches to me so I can hit that ball next time. And he finally did. In the last back half of the season, he did very well in hitting the ball. But he had to go through that struggle and deal with it himself.
I would say just from my perspective, I think, you know, in general, I think to succeed, you're going to have to fail. I think that's just everything. If you look at all the greats, whether it's in sports or in business, you know, you take chances and you fail and you learn from your mistakes and you move forward. You know, for me personally, I learned how to deal with failure from watching my dad, because not everything was as great as it is now. He had seasons, I've said this many times, you know, where they had losing records, and that's a lot of pressure. You know, when things don't go well, and at least in our line of business, the coach is the first person to be blamed. And there was many seasons where my dad would come home and we were worried, you know, will we have to move again, or will I have to make new friends again, or, you know, all these situations like that. And my dad always just remained his positivity and just continued to work hard and continue just to believe in himself and his team. And then next thing you know, boom, now he's, you know, one of the top coaches, or if not the top coach in the NBA. And, you know, it shows when you go through stuff like that, if you just keep at it and you believe in yourself, and if you have your values and certain things can unfold for you in the right way. So for me personally, in my life, when things have not gone well, especially this past year, you know, I was hurt. I broke my hand. So I'm battling injuries and trying to fit in and all these different things. You know, I had to look at my dad's situation and look at just people in life and situations. I'd read books about people who have failed but got to a point where they were able to achieve great things. And I looked at their situations and then would look at mine and be like, well, mine's not even that bad. You know, so if they could do it, I can do it. And I think that's the best thing for the parents to do, is sometimes just let their kid figure it out on their, you know, by themselves. You know, I see all the time parents overcoach their kids or like overwork with them. And if you do that, at some point, a kid's just going to want to break away, and he's going to lose the love of the sport or whatever you guys are into. So that's what I've learned from my personal experience.
Can I jump in on that? Because that's something that I struggle with sometimes, because as much as I want to go out and have fun and play with my son and play catch, I also know that his level of joy and happiness that he gets back from that is directly related to how well he is doing, if he's really hitting the ball well. So I go between how hard do I lean on him and go, look, your rotation isn't right, or you're still not doing this correct, or your release isn't right. And then it becomes a mechanical thing, and the experience isn't, let's just go play catch, Dad. So I go back and forth where, and maybe Doc, you can talk, and all the other gentlemen too. I mean, when you're with your kids, and do you go out and play, and is your goal to have fun, or is it to educate them so they can have success? And when they go play team sports, they do well. And
I think it's to have fun more. And I think if there's some instructional stuff that you want to get to, and Austin, you've probably seen, we've done it a million times. We'll go out and shoot and have fun, play shooting games, and then at the very end, I say, hey, by the way, one of the things you should do, and then I get off of it. But, I've kind of had this thing where I try to allow his coaches to coach him and me to be the parent. But there are times when we do talk specifics in basketball, and it's a fine line. There's days where I know he doesn't want to hear it, and I'm fine with that. And there's days that he does. But, Austin said something, and it's my firm belief is I'm a big believer in just moving forward, going forward, thinking forward, continue to go forward, keep your head down and just keep going. And I think if anything that I tell my kids, Austin, is just, Austin, I have a great game, great. Now let's keep going. You have a bad game, great. Now let's just keep going, and just keep moving forward. And I try to get that across to our kids a lot.
And I think, Doc, that applies to everything, both sports and just life in general. And Mark, I guess I like Doc. My goal is to be my kid's go-to person in life. And sometimes, a lot of times, like Doc said, it just requires just being present. I mean, that's to me is the number one thing. There's opportunities all the time to be the dad and to give instruction and give advice. But a lot of times, the most valuable times I have with my kids, I think, are when I hold back and I just give them myself and just be with them and let them know that I'm there for them.
So we have about 2 minutes left. This is really great hearing all this stuff from you guys. I was just going to quickly ask what your plans are for Father's Day, if you have any good plans with your kids or dads. Austin and Doc, what are you guys doing?
Well, I can tell you how I'm going to start out the morning, and Austin's going to laugh because he knows what's going to.
Golfing. I already know he's going golfing.
I'm going to start off early in the morning golfing, and then by 11 o'clock I'll be home, and we're going to have a huge family brunch, and then we're going to have a huge family dinner where all the kids are in town, except for my daughter who's in California. But we're just going to have, just watch sports, watch the NBA Finals. And that's what we're going to do.
Thanks. How about you, Fred?
Well, actually, after I hang up on this chat, I'm driving directly to San Antonio, and the family and I are going to spend the weekend at SeaWorld. So this will be a good activity for everybody.
Jim?
I'm doing an all-nighter with American Cancer Society Relay for Life as a chaperone for my son, Drew. My daughter's off in Iowa at school, and hopefully I have some time with my son, Kevin, who will be home for the day. Other than that, it's just a normal day.
Fantastic. Mark, what are you doing with your kids?
We celebrated Father's Day already here on our show. We made, for these guys, it was great. We had crafts where we built water bottle rockets, had a blast, and that's going to keep them busy, I think, through the weekend as well. However, my kids are leaving with their grandparents to go on a fishing trip, which we planned before we looked at the calendar and realized it was Father's Day. So I actually get the day off, and I'm going to just probably kick back in bed and watch TV and just do something, because raising these two boys takes a lot out of you. So I'm gonna enjoy the down.
Fantastic. Well, thank you everyone for being on this last Fatherhood Series Google Plus Hangout. Make sure anyone who's watching to go to the Fatherhood community where you can post and chat and talk all about dad issues, dad stuff. And make sure to have a happy Father's Day. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well.